Hi, welcome to the Radical Self-Love Video Summit. I'm Lillian Ben-Ruby and I am your host. Today we have Stephanie McWilliams, who is the founder of Unstoppable You. Stephanie McWilliams is an intuitive mentor, business strategist, international speaker, author of Your Space for Success and The Unstoppable Entrepreneur, as well as the former host of HGTV's smash hit design show Feng Shui. She inspires women on a mission to become powerful leaders in their lives, families, communities, and the planet as they finally unleash their life's deepest purpose out into the world. Stephanie's surprising mix of intuitive guidance, practice savvy, and spiritual sass helps women build their own personal empires filled with passion and heart. Her mission: to change the world one unstoppable woman at a time. Stephanie has appeared on programs such as Good Morning America Now, Martha Stewart, Morning Living, HGTV, People Magazine, Sirius Radio, San Diego Living, Women's World Magazine, ABC News, John Edwards' Infinite Quest, Your Time, and Kim Iverson, and Inside Indiana Business, to name just a few. So please welcome Stephanie McWilliams. So hi, Stephanie. I just want to welcome you to the Radical Self-Love Video Summit. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Mine too. So I just want to start off our conversation today by quoting some of the things on your website that really struck me as meaningful to the summit. Okay. So you
Sure.
Okay. You say that you're on a mission to help other women live their missions big time. And you say that you've turned some tough, serious struggles of your own and learned to turn those challenges into gems. And you also say, I've claimed my well-rounded womanhood, and I'll show you how to be a woman who is spiritually strong, breaking rules, leaps tall buildings in a single bound, and is sweet, playful, and feminine too. And so I said to myself that basically this sounds like a woman who knows what she's talking about. But this is a woman.
I'm glad. Let's see if I can live up to that. It sounds really good hearing it read back to me. So
lovely, lovely. So it sounds like somebody who has, really turned some of her own struggles into gems and has done the inside work to get to where she's at today. And I thought I'd ask you to just talk about that a little bit to the listeners so the listeners could hear about that story.
Sure. I'm still in process, by the way. I mean, I'm constantly looking at my stuff.
Okay.
That will probably, and look, I just looked up at the clock and it's 11:11, my favorite time.
Lovely.
It may not be when people are watching this, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, I was talking with a friend the other day and they were like very concerned. They just wanted to make sure I wouldn't be hurt by certain situations. And I thought, are you kidding me? Every pain I have been through in my life is literally what I have as a career. It's the strengths that I have now. They came directly from really tough stuff.
Yes.
And not just a little bit of it. It's a lot of really, really painful stuff that I've been through. And I think a lot of people can relate, although I have some really doozy of stories, which we don't necessarily have to go into the gory details of, but I'm happy to share pretty much anything. But I think that's that one thing that I see a lot of women kind of struggling with, and even myself, I've gone through so many, decades of thinking, my goal is to just be happy and giddy and smiling all the time. And there are such gifts in our pain. There is such gifts. And actually the answers to so many things are actually found within the struggles, by facing them and really understanding what they're really about and the gifts that are there. I grew up in, Midwest conservative Indiana with my parents both being, super left brain math teacher, scientist types.
Got it.
And here I was, this like super sensitive, fat, dorky little artist kid. And just the sensitivity, I didn't really realize to the extent on how that impacted me until way, way later in my life. But I'm starting to see so many other women that I'm working with who I would consider empaths and intuitives, and they wouldn't, but I can see that with them. And it was really tough to feel everything that people were going through. And, you know, call it whatever you will, but probably anybody listening to this summit falls into this category. And what we tend to do, what I did is I just turned it on myself, and I assumed whatever I was picking up on or feeling was what someone was thinking about me.
Yes.
Or it said something about my worth and my lovability and my goodness. And so I just went on this, just slowly snowballed into this self-hatred, like to a level that honestly, like, I work with women of all different ranges and challenges and wounds and awesomeness. And I still jokingly say I have never met anybody that got as crazy as I got for quite a while. And it was just this self-abusive, self-loathing, self-hatred, seething self-hatred that I had. And I gained a lot of weight. That was one of my kind of main jugulars is a challenge with food and eating disorder, just to cope, just to handle these emotions that I didn't know what to do with. And my parents didn't know what to do with it. And so it just kind of cascaded to basically crashing and burning at 19. And it actually happened from, I was back in the Oprah Winfrey days when she was doing her dieting, and I went and did the OptiFast thing right after she did it, because I thought, hey, if Oprah did it, must be good. And lost 70, 75 pounds over one summer. Wow. And came back realizing, wow, what I thought was my main problem is, being too fat. It left me so raw, and I still had no idea how to deal with my feelings or how to deal with connections with people. And I gained it back and some in about 6 weeks. Wow. If you think that's not possible, it is. And so that actually started this whole kind of rebirth for me of understanding some core principles from just facing the darkest parts of myself, from really taking many, many years. And I'm still hugely invested in understanding mindset and understanding the power of my thoughts and what it creates, in as much awareness and with as much self-love as I can.
Yes.
And also understanding the other components of, our bodies and our relationships with them from a health perspective, but just from an acceptance perspective. So that I think that's a huge part of our lives as well. And then also our physical environment, which a lot of people know me from the feng shui show that I did on HGTV.
Yes.
Of understanding that healing tool, that the impact that our environment has. And so it's just been this really wild journey of, continually sinking into a deeper and deeper understanding. The funny part, I mean, there's like so many stories, and I may just kind of loop back to some of them naturally, but it's so funny that it all, like when I was a little kid, my first memory that I have was being under 5. It was probably more like 3.5, 4 years old, and being down in the basement of our house in Indiana. And really thinking the only thing that I cared about was, how am I going to make everybody on the planet understand one another and unconditionally love one another? I knew that there was something really powerful to that was my mission. And I was clear about that from as far back as I can remember.
Yes.
And then, of course, if that's my desire, what am I going to need to do? I'm going to need to go into that world of completely hating myself, of not being on my own side, of not loving myself unconditionally, and to understand that, to start coming out the other side of it so I can share that with other people.
Yes.
And that's what the journey has been. And I know you and I talked just for a couple minutes before we started, but I've just been talking to a lot of colleagues and friends of mine. And there's this kind of, I love that you're doing this summit. Because it's like something's happened and just recently. And some of you may be going, oh, I'm a part of this. I feel this, of this kind of being reinvested or sinking deeper into, or maybe just coming to realize how simple what we're seeking really is.
Yes.
I mean, I have done so many, I've searched and looked for so many processes and done all this self-exploration. I mean, for 30 years practically now. And it's been my number one goal. And I'm starting to find I'm even starting to question even needing to fix anything about myself. I think things that are working for me now is actually stopping the fixing.
Yes.
It's just turning this radical sense of self-love, this gentleness, this kindness toward every part of myself. Whereas before I'd get in my head and I think, what process would be great for unraveling this? And what I didn't realize is even in the most subtle form, that's a form of self-hatred. That's a form of saying there's something wrong here. Mm-hmm. This needs to be different. I'm judging it, even if I'm doing it kindly and with spiritual, my little spiritual woo. And that part of me feels that. Yeah. It feels broken. It reminds me that I think there's something wrong with me, that I need to be better, be different, to be acceptable. Mm-hmm. And I'm realizing, like, I think it's all kind of, I've realized this before. It's not a new epiphany, but it has sunk into a different kind of clarity that I am hearing a lot of people jumping onto that simplicity bandwagon too.
Yes.
And just bringing love to everything. And it sounds too simplistic. It's like, oh my God, really? She's going to say, like, just go freaking love yourself. I'm like, yep. You can toss basically everything and just sit around and love every damn part of yourself, especially those pieces. That's kind of the newer clarity of really, really, for me, bringing a love, a gentleness, a kindness to the parts of me that I've been wanting to fix.
Yes.
To really radically love the jealous one, and love the one who wants someone else to fill her, and love the one who feels like there's too much to do, and love the one who feels, abandoned and angry and bitchy and whatever it is. Just really being okay with it. It's like that thing that I think some of us have said over the decades, that love is the only way.
Yes. And
love is really the only way, but I think we haven't really been living that to this full extent. And I think this is the coolest time to be a person, to be a human, is to really play with that on a level I don't think we've done. Because anything less, for me,
yes,
I am seeing that anything less than absolutely adoring, loving, accepting, embracing every part of me and every part of anyone else is an act of war. And it will never, ever work. And it's fine to do it. Everything's fine, but it's going to keep perpetuating. It's going to keep repeating until it's seen, until it's loved. And in some ways, it's really refreshing to really realize, like, I feel like I'm just dropping so many, basically kind of sticking with one or two techniques, if you will call them that I find that have always brought me to that place of unconditional love. And I don't really feel like I need anything else.
Yes.
So that's kind of good news.
Totally.
It's good news that we don't have to change a goddamn thing, because it is exhausting to do that. It's like live and let live,
Well, it's almost, listening to you talk about this very passionately. So, I get that this is very, very meaningful to you, and it's very important to you. It's almost like it is our responsibility and our duty to really love ourselves and take care of ourselves, so that, others can do the same, right? And we get to create a very different world that way. And I think, what appears to me as though some people feel that this movement sometimes is a bit self-indulgent, so to hear the words like, I have to love myself, I have to adore all parts of myself. To some people, that sounds like almost a self-indulgent thing to do, like it's a wrong thing to do.
Well, I mean, if we don't know how to do it for ourselves, it is literally impossible to ever do it for anyone else.
Absolutely.
And most of us are trained to, especially as women, to go and try to fake loving everyone else, and, leave our tanks empty. And a lot of it is, I don't think anybody even needs to do anything. It's like whatever shows up is awesome.
Yes.
But I think it's this, if we're not loving ourselves, it's kind of it's like basically, I think what we've been doing in the spiritual community is, I'm going to pretend to be really, really nice.
Yes.
And I personally learned how to do this like gangbusters. I'm going to learn how to put on the charm and smile when I don't really mean it. And I'm going to learn to do these wonderful things. And it's more like it's a thing to check off. Here's how I need to behave. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
And we're going and do it, not from our heart, not from this natural kind of expression. It's like, here's what I should do to be okay and acceptable. It's basically another way to kind of con ourselves into finding love outside of ourselves to get validation.
Yes.
And then we beat the crap out of ourselves in our head. And I'm like, well, there is nothing spiritual about that, I'm finding.
Yeah.
And I've tried it for decades.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, if they call it self-indulgent, I mean, it's just it's a curious kind of thing, because if we are not in a clear place, I mean, nothing exists. Everything in my life is like a projector screen. Mm-hmm. It is all siphoned through this. And if this is not clear, my whole entire reality gets clouded by it, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's call it self-indulgent, but if we don't have that within ourselves, it's just chaos outside of ourselves. It's like everybody wants the world to be wonderful and for everyone to be happy and everyone to be loved unconditionally, but we have to start within us.
Yes.
So whatever, great. Cheers to self-indulgence.
Yeah, I think just historically, like you mentioned earlier, you know, women have been socialized to take care of everybody else first, and, you know, to think about themselves if they're given permission to think about themselves later.
They've been martyrs.
Yeah.
And what we don't realize is we are subtly teaching, or not so subtly, we are teaching that war works.
Yes.
We can act as cute and loving and spiritual as we want, but if that self-hatred is there, it is coming out, whether you realize it or not, and we are teaching it.
Yes.
And so
yes,
it's kind of futile, if you ask me. It was interesting. I was on the phone with someone last night, and someone very close to me, and she's very upset with her son, mm-hmm. who is just kind of not behaving. He's very, very negative, very stressed out, really just like angry, hating people, thinking people are idiots, morons, like all this. And she's very passionate about sharing the details of that.
Yes. And
she's wanted to know, how can I want to help him, and maybe I should bring up this one book, and maybe I should talk about this one video I saw, and you know, he just needs to stop doing this. And I just lovingly tried to help her see that, one, unless she's in a happy place, we can only teach what we are being.
Yes.
It's not, lip service doesn't do shit. And she was also telling him, by every time she was with her son, mm-hmm. she was reminding him, you're not right.
Yes.
You're broken. Yes. You need to be happier. Yes. You need to fix it. Yes. Who you are and what you're feeling is not valid. I'm uncomfortable by your anger, so get your shit together so I feel better. And we don't realize we're doing that. It's innocence. We all do it.
Yes.
But how in the world are we ever going to, and this is what this person does to herself.
Yes.
Welcome to the club. We all know the rules to that one. Mm-hmm. But until we really start seeing the truth of how this operates, we're just going to spin our wheels. And again, that's fine.
Yes.
It just hurts a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, just tracing that backwards, you know, you were touching upon the fact that, you know, this is what she's doing to herself. So, you know, if she's coming down really hard on him and, you know, perhaps critical, or saying in the background that something's wrong here and I have to fix it, she's also coming from a place of judging it as wrong and that she has to fix it, right? And
she is powerless as well.
Yes.
Because her happiness is dependent on his behavior.
Yes.
Good luck with that, because I know this person, and I'm like, I don't think this is not looking like it's going to change anytime soon. It may. I'm thrilled however it shows up.
Yes.
But that's one of the biggest things that we have to realize. And I tell you, I have been brought to my knees so many times, and even recently seeing more layers of how I am so trained to put my happiness in other people's hands and other situations' hands. If I have enough money, if I look a certain way, if that person loves me mm-hmm. and validates me, mm-hmm. you know, if the weather's right, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it is, we are puppets when we do that. Mm-hmm. And until we really realize that it is our job, no one else can do it. And it is as simple as just turning into ourselves, mm-hmm. And just loving those parts of ourselves. I tend to see them as little girls, like little aspects of myself, or turning into our heart, or just saying, I love you. I love the part that's showing up right now. I love the part that wants this man to validate me. I love this part that thinks I'm going to be happier when I have money. Just really embracing it and giving it the attention it wants. That's the only power we actually have.
Yes.
And if we look for anything outside of ourselves, and that's a radical kind of thing for some people because we're so steeped in it, but if we look to anything outside of ourselves, at some point, it is going to come back to doing this inner work because it is unsustainable. It can't, it cannot ever do that job.
Yeah.
And it's just this innocence from, growing up where we really, it was life and death that we got care from beings outside of ourselves, from mommy and daddy or whoever it was.
Yes.
But we're still operating off of that, that assumption that that's what we need. And it is the pain it's really the cause of everyone's suffering.
Yes.
So knowing that is the most wonderful thing. Then we get the opportunity to turn back to the only control we have, which is to adore ourselves. We are so taught, especially like around love relationships. That's been a huge teacher for me this last year of how deeply steeped we are in this like kind of this fantasy of finding like the soulmate, the perfect union. And the only relationship we are here to have really is this deep, profound love affair with ourselves. And to the extent we do that, then partners that are awesome and healthy and dreamy can show up to match that energy. But it was never about them. And the minute it's about them, you're screwed because they die and get old and they act like douchebags sometimes and they change their minds. And they're human, just like all of us.
Yes.
So I'm just really, if nothing else, I feel like my job on the planet is kind of like the truth teller of understanding how things really work. And I got massive doses of that at pretty young ages and continue to, and just to shake people awake so they don't have to suffer spinning their wheels. And because we beat ourselves up when we do that.
Yes.
We assume there's something wrong with us if we can't get it together. We can't figure it out. We can't be happy all the time. And whatever other funny things we're seeking.
Yes.
And it's so polar opposite.
Yes.
God, I mean, I'm just like, I'm like, all these ideas are popping into my head. But one of the things that I'm like really, really talking about a lot with my private clients, with colleagues, and even on interviews is one of the biggest things we have to embrace is being okay with our emotions.
Yes.
We are taught from the get-go to run away from anything that feels uncomfortable in our bodies. And it is literally those things, those emotions that hold the key to everything.
Yes.
And as long as we are running we believe they're going to kill us. Basically, if we really boil down to it, most everybody's like, yeah, if I feel this, it's never going to go away. And I'm just going to die in a cardboard box feeling this horrible thing. And it is the polar opposite. I've been really playing with this very deeply for the last couple years and really facing like my biggest fears, these emotions that honestly, sometimes I feel like I am processing the pain of the entire universe, or at least this planet. It is so deep. It's like this deep, deep, deep hopelessness and grief. And I don't know how to explain this to anybody unless you played with it. It's kind of delightful. I feel really alive.
Yes.
And it lifts. It just moves through like a cloud. It doesn't have any power. It's this beautiful physical experience. That's it. And we have glomped all this other craziness on top of it that makes us go to war with it, or we separate from it. We have so much resistance around it. Yeah. And from diving into it and really unconditionally loving these parts, then we're freed from it. Yes. And most everybody is running from it. And it is like a giant pressure cooker, like a huge pressure cooker being, like following us everywhere we go. And we wonder why we feel like hot messes. Yeah. And if we just turn into it and feel it, it releases that pressure.
Yes.
And then because there's this idea that I've had it for most of my life, that, to be on the spiritual path means you just get better and happier and happier and happier and happier. And I find the freedom that I'm seeking now is just, can I be okay with whatever shows up?
Yes.
Like the other day when I just got back from a trip to New York, and I was walking down the street and I just started to cry, just sobbing like a baby. Then I got onto like a New York subway and I still was crying. And I'm like, all right, then let's let's do this. Let's just cry. And so I'm just kind of delighting in crying. And then I'm on a plane and I'm crying. And people could go, oh, she's so, they're going to project their own stuff because they're uncomfortable with it. They're like, oh, she must be in this horrible mess. No, I actually am just feeling whatever's coming up. And I'm stopping assuming that I know why. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like, sometimes I'm actually processing stuff from the environment or for someone else or for a client. Sometimes I just don't even know where the heck it's coming from. Sometimes I think I have a clue to something that got triggered within me, and I'm just really loving it and letting it show up. Mm-hmm. And that's the freedom. Mm-hmm. That's what I think we're all more deeply seeking is, can we really be okay with every part of ourselves? Not just the happy part, but like really love all of it. Because then it's just, everything just flows.
Yes.
So I think we've just been really kind of off on our concepts about what this is about and what we're really seeking.
For sure. For sure.
I don't know if that made a lot of sense or not. I'm just like, I'm on a soapbox.
It made a ton of sense, Stephanie. I mean, I think you're talking about essentially that when we're resistant to what's going on in our lives, we're having a background conversation that sounds like nothing is okay. I have to change everything outside here so that it looks like what I want it to look like, because I think that if it looks like this, then it means this. And if it looks like this, then it means this. And it makes me feel more comfortable when it looks like this, right? Yep. So we spend a lot of time trying to manipulate our environment or things outside of us, as opposed to really going inside of us and being okay. Because the truth of the matter is that even when things don't show up like the way that we want them to, they can be incredibly beautiful.
It's usually better.
Yeah, sometimes.
Not usually. It always is.
That element of surprise, that element of magic, right, never shows up if we're only geared towards one picture, right?
I would never have ever thought that a television show would drop out of the flippin' sky and land in my lap. I'll tell you that for sure. Okay. We think that we're so trained. Another one of these myths is we're so trained in let's go push and shove and effort and make shit happen. We have this concept, I'm alone, I have to be a little trooper, and I have to push and shove an effort. And the funny thing is, the more I do that, the less things happen.
Yes.
And if I actually manage to create something from that efforting, and I've done that in my business, but I leave my heart and my soul behind, and I am not in a loving state with myself, it's not going to last very long.
Exactly.
You're going to come right back to status quo, because no human being can handle that kind of like, all the time, or I can't.
Yes.
And it really is like, the more we relax, that's when crazy shit happens that is so beyond what I could never have choreographed. The things that have happened in my life, the synchronicities with partners, with homes, with travel, with my income, with the television show, with my career. Like, the more I get out of the way and trust, and I'm in that loving state of, I'm okay, I'm enough. Like, because most of the women I work with, we've got a whole slew of stuff that says we're broken, we're not good enough. And you have to address those things and learn how to kind of come to that beautiful place of acceptance of just how you are. But when we're in that powerful place and in non-resistance, stuff that's way bigger usually than we could ever imagine just floats in.
Yes.
So it is almost everything we are doing is the polar opposite of what we've thought works. It's really comical, actually. Like, it cracks me up almost every day. I'm like, wow, we're just like a giant floating crazy bin, kind of just moving through the universe. And we're all operating off of like really, really crazy concepts innocently.
Yes.
And I just try to find the humor in it as much as possible to keep sane.
Yes. And I think a lot of, we're operating from a place of unconsciousness, right? And we've just been programmed to some extent. We're acting out our beliefs and, our thoughts and so on and so forth in the world without realizing it. And I think that, when we start to become conscious of it, then we go, oh, I'm the common denominator in this life, right? And then we start to look at ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
And also just really relaxing into, we're going to show up in funny ways.
Yes.
Can we love that?
Yes.
Can we love us when we're seeking the things that don't work?
Yes.
And just kind of having a little chuckle and just finding it so sweet.
Yes.
all we're looking for is to feel good. All we're looking for desperately is for love. And we've just been using the wrong rule book.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. I could talk about this all day, every single day. What else is there?
I have a question for you. You also talk about this magical connection to source that you have. I'd like for you to talk about that. And what is source for you?
Well, from a human perspective, I don't think we're even capable of grasping what that is, what source is.
Okay.
And as I develop, I get a stronger sense of what it is, but it is for me, it's a growing awareness of something that is so immense that like no human brain can wrap its head around how this whole thing works. But for me, it's just this loving source that is the essence of everything. It is what embodies and animates every single one of us, and my coffee cup and the paper and the computer. It's what animates everything for me. And I think at its core, it is a very loving force. But I'm starting to see there's lots of different layers or aspects of it. I think it's far more complicated. And I do have a lot of mediumship stuff happen and have had some interesting conversations with people who have passed, who have tried to convey to me that I'm kind of on the right track, but oh my God, it is a vast, wild thing we're dealing with. It's like, I want to say it's complicated. It's easier than, or it's simpler than we think, but I think we can't even begin to wrap our heads around it. And I don't think it's actually that important to wrap our heads around it, because that's the whole point of coming down here as a human. We're supposed to figure out how do we kind of live with this inspired, intuitive kind of a connectedness, but really live as a person. I think a lot of people in the spiritual community have been trying to use spirituality and understanding what's out there as a way to actually go into resistance around the pains of being human. And that's not the point. I think we're here to really experience this, but experience it fully.
Yes. For
me, I didn't go seeking this relationship with source. It kind of just started happening as especially in my early 20s, when I got into a lot of mindset work. I mean, really trippy. I learned about Byron Katie's work like 25 years ago or more. And I was following her around the country and doing her questioning process, which I'm happy to talk about, but we probably don't have time. But go look her up. And I was unraveling my mind so much. I was questioning everything. Every stressful thought that came up, I would sit around all day long and just question, is that really true? Is that really true? And everything was just falling away. My whole world was getting rewired. And what I noticed was there was still, like, it's not that my mind was quiet. Thoughts were still going, but those thoughts were, oh, call your grandma. And then my grandmother would call. And then, oh, turn left and not right down this street. And then I'd run into a friend. Or, like I'd have some random weird word or concept pop up. And then I turn on the TV and then it's on the television. And I didn't believe that I had any abilities. Now I'm realizing everybody does, and I teach it now. But this intuitive thing started coming up. I started having dreams that would tell me painful things that were coming down the road, just to kind of help kind of ease my heart, so it wasn't such a shock for me. I started having, dead people showing up at the foot of the bed, telling me strange messages. Then I started kind of experimenting through a mentor at the time who was teaching me how to use this to help my clients. And I was using it with all my feng shui clients, whether they knew it or not. I was doing intuitive readings on them, kind of practicing and using them as guinea pigs to strengthen my skills. And it was guiding all of the work that I did. And that is the basis of what I do with clients now. I can get very specific information, and I'm always, developing my tools to really help. How do I move someone? Myself, I use it every day in every area of my life, but especially with my clients. How can I get access to what's really the deepest thing going on? The most important thing that would help shifting it first. And so that it saves time, and it prevents a lot of unnecessary pain. And so it's just been this wild thing that just keeps getting stronger. I mean, I see images, I get kind of downloads of information. Now, about a year ago, I started hearing, like literally hearing voices, and now I can discern the different voices and different ears. And it just keeps kind of getting stronger and stronger. These like really loving messages,
Yes.
that they're invaluable. I mean, life is a million times easier when there's this kind of clear perspective versus the crazy fog of my brain. And just, looping what I already know and trying to put it into a new combination. It's still the craziness. And it helps me when to really access it clearly, requires me to step into that unconditionally loving place. The more I am practicing and experiencing and being that for myself, the more I can almost just kind of step outside myself and information pour through.
Yes.
So that all this unconditional love work is vital and totally connected to how we're going to be living. I've been teaching a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years, helping impress upon women that one, they are all intuitive, and two, this is how we have to live now. Yes. We've been steeped in living from our brain, pulling up the Rolodex of what happened yesterday or what happened 10 years ago, and kind of like just regurgitating, here's the steps. And life is moving too fast. It's evolving too quickly. And if we're just relying on this, we're kind of behind the times in 2 seconds. Yes. And it's scary to the brain. Yes. To live on this like precipice of the unknown. We're always in the unknown, but the brain thinks it's not. It's a little control freak. We love it. But now we're really being called to stand on this like constant edge. We're trailblazers. We don't have the rules to what's coming.
Yes.
So we have to stay in this, we have to really be in this unconditionally loving state so that things that are not in resonance or not needed anymore can be loved and seen, and they will just leave us. They will just disappear. Yes. And then we're left as this empty vessel. And that's the whole kind of point, I think, from the get-go, is can we come here and kind of flush out. I'm always using this analogy of like we're all different kind of pipes, but the minute we start getting on these limiting beliefs, it's like hairballs in our pipes, and we're like wondering why everything feels awful. And we have to go back in and really look at, does this serve us? Is this even true? And these things, the hairballs just kind of dissipate, the little rotor of spirituality. And then our, whatever you want to call it, your soul or higher guidance or God or whatever, can just flood through. Yes. And that is a really powerful, dynamic, active, charged experience. And it's just loving and creative. And there's not this agenda that our brains make. So I'm really, really keen on helping women understand that and embrace that, and not seeing it as something like, not putting me on any kind of pedestal. I didn't have intuitive things happening. I developed this, and I'm watching my clients develop this stuff too, and colleagues.
Yes.
And so to thrive, it's kind of you kind of got to go there.
Yeah. And
you can't dodge it anymore.
It's really interesting because as you were bringing that up, I was thinking to myself, not realizing I was thinking to myself, for the listeners for all of us who feel that we need to have the rules and are so afraid of the unknown, it's how do we make that? We can't possibly know ahead of time, but a lot of people feel that they need to know what's going to happen if they open that door, or if they click on that button, or, they take that next step. So what can you give them what can you give them to have them feel or understand that it's in taking that step that they learn the rules? If there are any rules.
I think it really comes down to any kind of angst, stress, unhappiness, confusion, fear comes from holding a concept that is not how source sees it. And so for me, usually the easiest thing, or if I'm working with a client, it's to kind of diagnose, all right, so what did I just think, or what many things did I just think? And usually it's some flavor of, I'm alone, I have to do this, I have this strong belief that I'm controlling the outcomes. Yes. I'm alone. Yes. And I need to do it, and I need to do it right. Yes. And then I'll be safe. pretty much the root of all of our stress and adrenal issues. You know, I think I'm like the president of that club. But for me, it's just, if I can catch that and go, anytime I feel anything less than bliss, there is something that's gotten triggered. It's a concept that is really untrue.
Yes.
And when I can find that and just ask, all right, so is that really, can I be positive that I know everybody on the planet holds this?
Yes.
Can I, for myself, ask, does this work for me? Can I be positive? Like, sometimes I'll jokingly say, you know, would God agree with me, or handshake on this? You know, or can I be, you know, 1,000% sure? And from that, it's just, even just the questioning of it, not from a judgment, but from a curiosity of like, oh, this is interesting. I think this and I'm stressed and unhappy.
Yes.
What's going on here? Yeah. And then for me, it's just moving through the kind of a classic Byron Katie, you know, her questioning process of really feeling into, when I think that I need to know what's going to happen, how do I live? How do I function? How do I treat myself? How do I treat other people? Just really feeling into the full experience of what that's like. And for me, every time I ask and inquire about that, I realize it's like hell on earth. It's terror. I usually don't know what's going to happen. I don't really feel like I'm 100% sure on how to make it happen. It's very nerve-wracking. I feel like the entire world is resting on my shoulders. And so it creates this kind of interesting cascade of blah. And then sitting with, all right, so what might happen if I was free from that thought? If just for daydream's sake, if that were just sucked out of my brain, and I just couldn't even go there. I was just rendered stupid in that area. And I couldn't think that I'm alone. I have to make it happen. And it's better that I know what's going to take place.
Yes.
Then I'm just right here talking to you, talking to whoever's watching, feeling my hands, the chill in the air. I'm in my body. Everything's fine. Everything's always fine when I'm not in, you know, kind of caught up in the panic and the terror. And then it starts showing me the problem is not the situation. The problem is not my life. It is how I'm perceiving it.
Yes.
And so that kind of shakes me awake of, oh, innocently, I have just I've bought into what people have taught me.
Yes.
And then I can kind of bring myself back to center.
Yes.
And I love her process of kind of taking that phrase and looking for kind of spins, because we tend to just look at one side of the coin.
Yes.
And it's, you know, I'm alone and I need to know, it's, you know, it's best I know what's going to happen. You know, I'm alone. I'm not alone. And just to sit with, just to even consider it. It's not to say that it's true or anything. It's just to consider something other than this, like, this kind of knee-jerk reaction we have. We have to break this pattern of just automatically going to these brain synapses that we set up at age 6 months or something.
Yes.
That's how we're going to kind of wake up and start doing things differently. So it's just, I will personally sit and consider, I'm alone. I'm not alone. And I will try to find reasons why that actually could really hold some clout. How are all the ways that I'm not alone? And really like build up some ammunition for this other perspective. Or, you know, it's like, I need to know the future. I don't need to know the future. And that can be a little scary to sit with. But when I sit with it, it's like, right now, I don't need to know anything, but I'm looking at your gorgeous face on the screen. I'm fine. It's a lovely experience not knowing, because it leaves me here, not in my head, trying to flesh out something that I'm like not in control of, or that it helps the situation. It helps the situation to know what's going to happen. It hurts the situation to know what's going to happen. Yeah. It hurts it when I'm trying to be in the future. Yes. That leaves me completely empty, not in my body right now, yes. Going into panic. Basically, I'm playing God. I'm taking on the weight of the entire world, thinking I somehow, I'm a smart chick. I'm a pea brain compared to the universe. I have no idea how to create rocks or cells or weather. Like, I don't know how to do that. I know how to, you know, make tea and cook and get dressed and turn on my camera. Like, So we have to, when I stop and catch it, it's this sweet innocence of remembering how things work and realizing that it is incredibly painful and stressful to try to run the universe. And then starting to notice the more we back off,
Yes.
we have to pay attention. The more we just relax,
Yes.
noticing what happens. Because when I start really being brave enough to take, and start with little stuff that doesn't matter. Oh my God, if you're freaking out, don't go make some, like, don't go have faith in some giant big life experience. Like, make it around, I'm just going to be in the moment right now around making my tea. Like, just something simple. But when we start putting those together and retraining our mind, then we start, for me, I started noticing when I think I'm in control of life and I get to be this crazy dictator, things are lousy. I don't feel good. I don't enjoy anything. I'm on this endless quest to fill something. But when I'm present, things start working out. I feel good regardless. And so it does take, it takes some time and some spaciousness to get to know ourselves and to break that pattern. And it's not easy. I'm going to be so sweet and compassionate to ourselves while we're going through this, because we're going to, for the most part, I've been teaching this, I've been doing this every day for like almost 30 years now. I still get myself in complete like panties in a twist mode all day. And it's like, can I just love that part of me? Like, here she is, she's trying to make something work that doesn't work, and it's sweet. We don't want to kill her off. We want to hug her.
Yes. We want to stop fighting. We want to just start liking and loving and being caring and compassionate and tender.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully that kind of made sense. I'm going off onto some interesting kind of big tangents, but this is the stuff that I explore in my own personal life and what I talk about with my friends.
And Stephanie, I think that because you do know what you're talking about, it came across loud and clear, like very clear.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can I just ask you to talk to the listeners about your gift?
Oh, my gifts with an S, because I'm mildly excessive. When people opt in and grab the gift, it's basically a whole bunch of things. Mostly because what I found with myself and with all my clients is that kind of depending on where you're at, what year it is, what are you working on, there's different things that are coming up as our teachers. Sometimes it's money, and sometimes it's, understanding law of attraction from a way that actually works and not some of the craziness people are out there learning. And sometimes it's about intuition, and sometimes it's about love, and sometimes it's about business. And so I really love, I'm kind of like a big picture girl. And I teach on a lot of different things, kind of meeting people wherever they're at. I've needed that.
Yes.
So basically you're just getting a giant bundle of a lot of my different trainings on money and on spirituality and on, if you're, interested in or already steeped in building a service-based business, how to do that with it in a leveraged way that's with integrity, and how to develop your intuition. There's a whole giant kit that's just helping women start to develop their intuitive abilities in a really easy and really gentle way, and just inspirational tools. And basically I remind people, don't get overwhelmed. Just let it drop into your inbox, and wherever you're at, pick one, listen to it or not, toss the rest. There's no, there's no need to stress yourself out. But my goal is always to hopefully be able to provide something that helps wherever somebody's struggling.
Yes.
So it's a lot, but just remember, it doesn't matter. And I can send you other, the same stuff, 5 years from now, whenever you're ready for the next piece. But my goal has always been, how can I help change the planet? How can I help people everywhere?
Yes.
Step into this. And it's different depending on what stages we're at.
Yes.
So I'm hoping it serves wherever people are. And if not, email me. I'll find you some more goodies.
Yes.
I got lots. So
great. I just want to raise my glass and clink yours. Changing the world and helping people in the world, right? To really get themselves.
Well, and you're doing that too. All of us that are on the summit and everybody listening.
Yes.
Every one of us that is taking in even one slight new concept or being just the tiniest bit gentler. We're going out into the world with that. First and foremost, we're being it for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then we're spreading a little more kindness, a little more gentleness with everybody we meet. And it's like, God, how many people are all of us going to meet in this next year? Thousands and thousands of people, and it ripples out. And that's the thing that gets me off and gets me up and doing my hair, which I don't like doing.
Looks pretty nonetheless. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's an endless treat to get to talk about this. It is my world. It's my heart. So I hope it helps.
Yes, it does. Take care.
Thank you.